Okay, so what I wanted to do this morning was talk through how to set up a dirt rig, a small little 14-yard bucket on a previous auto steer. This is a FMX screen. It's branded Case IH, so it looks a little different than a true Trimble FMX, but all the steps and settings are the same. So we're going to start off with looking at our firmware version here, 10.13. There is actually one more version above this, 10.18, but that only addressed few specific issues with ISO stuff. So I'm not too worried about the firmware. 10.13 is very common and very usable and very robust. Not a lot of bugs there. Okay. So first off, we need to change this thing from auto steer to dirt moving. So what we've got to do is hit the wrench, come into our configuration page, and let's just start at the bottom here of the implement, or at the bottom of this list, changing our configuration. So we select implement, we hit switch config, and again, this screen has never moved dirt, but if you do have a scraper or something in here, it looks like one of these guys has put something in here, more like a field level scenario, but we're just going to hit new because this is a new setup. So let's name it, and what we have here is a 14-yard Crabtree bucket or Reynolds, same deal, don't worry about that. So I'm just going to name it 14-yard bucket. And then it's going to come up here to active plugins, and we're going to do field level. If you've got WM drain, if you're doing a WM drain tile or surface drainage with WM drain, select it. We'll hit add, hit OK, and then we're going to want to change to this. So our next setup here, our next page in the setup is an operation. So drop this down, put leveling and drainage, where you get your dirt pan, hit next. This pan is 12 foot wide. If you have auto steer, this is very important. This customer opted not to get the auto steer along with it, so we're just gonna put in 12 feet here. Now rows, this does not matter. Application offset, again, does not matter. Yes, we could put it's approximately 10 feet behind. Can put something like that in there, but all that is a visual. That does not control anything here. Left right offset is the implement trailing 100% directly behind the machine, or is it off left or right? That's what this one's all about. All right, next is geometry. We don't deal with anything here. It looks like it jumped to extras. We don't do anything in geometry or overlap because this particular spot of this is not controlling anything. We'll go through what does control. Alright, so we change it to 14-yard bucket. Okay. Next here is we'll have to go to this autopilot. And since we don't have autopilot in this setup, we're going to hit add and remove, and we're going to remove autopilot. This can be done before or now, but it needs to get out of there if you're not planning on auto steering and moving dirt. Okay, so WM survey is here. You could add, no, you cannot add WM survey and field level at the same time. Actually, yes, you can add WM survey and field level. You cannot add WM drain and field level at the same time. Survey is fine and good to add. Alright, we're going to hit OK. It's going to pop us up here to a misconfiguration on our GPS. That is because the autopilot was still in there at that point when that popped up, and we just need to set this to where it's correct. Alright, so that's what we'll go ahead and do now. So GPS receiver, setup, and internal primary, this is correct. You can add other receivers to this, but internal primary is the only screen, this is only unlock that's in this screen. Net ID is 9 is correct. And then next we will go to field level and set it up. Okay, operation mode, plane, flat, GPS, earth surface, point and slope, multiplane design, and contour. This screen would now mark contour levees, and it would do a multiplane design, and it would do a plane earth surface. Earth surface is more to the curvature of the earth than plane flat. Plane flat is laser flat. And to not get into a big long explanation of that, just go ahead and set it on earth surface and be done. Cut field range warning, we can just leave it on 2 feet. It says it's out of range. Alright, VDOP level. VDOP level is set at 3 because that's where Trimble wants you to set it. Whenever you're working up beside trees, buildings, any kind of GPS obstruction, this level will cause you a lot of pop-ups. I put this up as high as 60 and even 90. That VDOP level, VDOP means vertical deposition level, and it's an accuracy level. I just blow that setting out way up, don't worry about it. If you're running off of a base station in the field, this pop-up should never come up even at 5 seconds. If it does come up, you have a compromised signal from the base, or you have a compromised antenna or magnet base or coax back down to the screen. When you are working off of a tower, then you might want to raise this up. And I personally do not like pop-ups. I would rather something stop me dead than a pop-up. And so I put this at 15 seconds until the cable is actually broke. Alright, on-grade tolerance, we need to clear that out, and we need to put this on 0.5. I want this on 0.5 inches, a half an inch. Okay. Alright, our next setting is blade settings, and so my blade step on the run screen, there is a coarse blade step, then a fine blade step. This one is the fine blade step, so it's set at 1 inch right now, and I really want it at a half an inch. Alright, and this one I want at 1 inch. Antenna height. You do not need to mess with antenna height unless you're working to or working in with a crew that you want to match with your blade settings. Then you would mess with antenna height. If it's just a single bucket, do not worry about that one. On grade limit, I want this at a half inch as well. Disengage raise, I don't worry about that. I will show what this is if you shut your automatic control off on the screen, if you put a seconds in here, it will raise the pan up at full power 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds when you shut the automatic off on the display. Most customers will be running their #1 button on this tractor, on a case tractor, so that is a setting that we don't even use. Relative heights, this is controversial. Will not go into what this is very deep here, but what I do like to set here is I do like to turn them on so that my offset is always at my benchmark elevation when I set it is always at a static number. So whenever I set a master benchmark, it will call it 100 feet. It won't be some random thing all over the place all the time. If you don't enable this, when you set a benchmark, it will grab what it thinks real world elevation is, and it will be different on every job, and I do not like that scenario, so I turn it on. Valve setup. We have a VM415 hooked up to this thing running tractor remotes. Our tractor is a case in this scenario. It's actually a Case Magnum 280. Valve remotes, height left, not inverted is default. If I would change this to right, it would control another remote. Right now, I need to be on the left. On a Case John Deere Versatile tractor, we control number 1 or number 3 remote. We cannot control any of the others. A Cat, you can do multiples, but for the sake of the video, I'm just going to do John Deere and Case and Versatile. You control 1 and 3. If you change this to right, you will control number 3 remote. I typically control number 1 with a single bucket. Inverted or not inverted, okay? When you push the remote forward and the bucket goes down, then this setting needs to stay on not inverted. If you push the remote forward and the bucket raises up, this needs to be on inverted. What this is the automatic controlling the bucket up when it says to go up and down when it says to go down. If that is vice versa, whenever the system says to go down and the bucket comes up, come in here and adjust that setting to correct that. We need to leave it at default in our setting. Alright, once we hit OK, we're not quite done. The field level is set up, yes, but it's not calibrated and you will not see the correct things on the screen that you need to see. Under System, you need to hit Switch Config. We're still changing the configuration. We hit New here, and I just want to change and name it to Dirt Moving. Active plugins here, we're not using any of these, so just leave that alone, and we want to change it to Dirt Moving. Okay, now our system says Dirt Moving. After you get these set up, you do not need to go through this whole setup that I am going through now. You can just change the configuration page and do that from the bottom up. Status items would be one thing that we need to change here. We're going to hit setup, and then we're going to come down here to P cut fill, which is what we want to see on one of them, and then we're going to want to see our altitude. This altitude, no, it might not be 100% correct. There's settings in the base station that have to be correct for this to be correct. So, but what it's going to do is give us a reference of is that blade going up or going down in relation to grade. That's why I set that there. If you want to see any of the rest of these, you have to set them in the slide out tab. And I like to see CMR percent correction age, and sometimes I will go ahead and set our GPS satellite count. And currently I'm not finding it right off. There it is right there. Okay. Then timeout right here, and I'll show this in the next video of how to make a field, set a benchmark and everything. Timeout, that needs to be to never, because that will just move. And I've got phone calls before saying, hey, the slide out tab left, how do I get it back? Okay, next thing here is a preference on feet and inches versus decimal feet, and that is under language and units. By default, FMX comes with feet and inches. Most farmers prefer this in feet and inches, but if they've ever moved dirt in the past, they will want this to be changed to decimal feet. Me as a dirt mover my whole life, I could not deal with feet and inches. I'm going to deal with it here with this setup unless they want decimal feet. So it's going to be feet and inches unless they want to change it. But somebody that's run a dirt pan, it's just it's probably a given that they're going to want that to be decimal feet. Okay, that's all we need to do as far as setup here. I do not like this backlight turning off because a lot of times, and the system turning off, because a lot of times you're out there dragging and you actually may not hit the screen for a minute and then the screen goes black. I have had that be a problem. Okay, next what we have to do is calibrate the dirt pan. So we're going to start this process, and that's where my video is going to end, because we've got to sit here and wait on it 8 or 9 minutes while the dirt pan calibrates. What you need to do is set the pan on the ground, let the blade all the way down, hit this button right over here on the console that says number 1. Here you got a 1 and a 3. We're controlling number 1. So hit it, make sure it goes to red. Now, this tractor has not ever seen a dirt pan, so this is not coming on. We have to go in the console, in the column here, and we've got to turn it on. So, on a case tractor, you have to start with it shut off. Turn the tractor off, hit the PROG button. There's a variant of this on every case tractor, but it's kind of the same on every single one. Press and hold program, turn the key on. Alright, comes up to instrument and TCU, let off a program. TCU is what we need to hit program to enter that menu, scroll down to EHR menu, scroll down again to, I hit program there to get into the EHR menu. We need to go to EHR setup. Alright, hit program again, scraper none. This is why number 1 and 3 don't light up. Change this to 1 or 2 scrapers, and I just defaulted to 2. You don't have to do 2, you can just do 1, but then when it says 2 scrapers here, hit program. Alright, next, scroll till you see exit, hit program. Scroll till you see exit, hit program, again exit, turn the key off, and then go ahead and start your tractor back up. Alright, once your tractor comes back up, number 1 should activate, and it does. It's yellow here now. Number 1 shows up here. So that number 1 turns on and off with the button now. If that does not turn on or off with the button, you probably don't have it configured correctly, or there's a problem in this board on the armrest. I've had both of these be an issue. With number 1 showing up, we're ready to go to our calibrate menu, reiterate, put the bucket on the ground, and then hit start, and then raise the throttle all the way up to 2000 RPMs or 1850, something like that, to give it full hydraulic power. Okay, stay on this page until you see about 2 or 3%. You actually cannot leave this page while it's calibrating. If you leave this page, it's going to stop it. On a John Deere, if you get out of the seat while it's calibrating, it's going to stop. A Case IH, you can jump out, leave the cab. I do not recommend that, but it will not stop. You've got to sit in this seat for 8-9 minutes. If you have a hose blow and you're over there cleaning up your tools, you're going to cost the customer a lot of hydraulic oil money. So sit in the seat while it's calibrating, and you'll whenever this gets to 100%, just pull the throttle back and then you can hit OK. Now, this is all grayed out and I can't mess with it right now, but the control deadband is whenever you're driving the tractor in the field, it's controlling to this number. It's always trying to get to 0, 0, no cutter feel. But this number, if it's a real high number in here, it won't get there very fast. So put that on a 1/2 inch or 3/100 if you're using decimal feet. So a 1/2 inch if you're using feet and inches, decimal feet if you're using, or decimal feet 3/100, 0.03 if you're using decimal feet. Stop deadband, don't worry about it. It's whenever the tractor is stopped and you're out of the seat talking to the farmer or sitting in here talking on the phone, the bucket will not adjust unless you're outside of whatever that control deadband is to 0. So if you're 2 foot off of deadband and you stop, then the bucket's going to go to the on grade. Okay, valve table right here, load defaults. You see these numbers previously were 50 and 50. These numbers when we get done are not going to be 50 and 50. They're going to be different. Now this load defaults, like if I had some reason problem with the bucket and I wanted to make sure it worked before I'd calibrate it, not in the field. This scenario, we got rain last night, we got water sitting everywhere, so we're not going to be able to do much with it. This valve table, I can make sure that valve, tractor, GPS all communicate if I would hit load defaults. Valve speed raise, valve speed lower. If your automatic does not control up fast enough, raise this valve speed raise number up by 10 points at a time. If it's not lowering, raise this number fast enough. If it's not lowering fast enough, raise this number up and down. If the bucket is porpoising, going up and down, you cannot smooth it out. Lower these numbers all the way down to 25. Now, I haven't had a problem with too slow. I've had problems both ways, too fast and too slow. But I've always been able to fine-tune the valve with these two numbers. Okay, when this gets done 100%, pull your throttle back, hit OK. Okay, so we have now finished our fill level calibration, and notice here our numbers are 140 and 120. These are good numbers. I will not change that unless I need to. So what we need to do here is just hit OK. Hit our number 1 button over here on the tractor so it doesn't continue to try to automatic whenever we're not wanting it to. But then be sure to save the implement's configuration, save config. What happens if you don't save that and you change this implement to some, and then you come back to fill level? That will not be calibrated, so that calibration will not be saved, and so your pan maybe will not work correctly. Okay, I did save this configuration before, but there's no reason not to just, when you're saving config, save it again. Okay, did not talk through WM survey before, so I'll do that now quick, and it's really simple. It's design height offset with a dirt pan. You survey with a dirt pan, you need to put a number in here, the difference between when the receiver is on the ground versus whenever it's all the way up, and that needs to be a GPS measurement, not a tape measure measurement. Tape measure measurement will get you close, but it will not be as accurate as setting the pan on the ground and raising it all the way up, putting that number in it. Point density, don't worry about, just leave it at default. 10 feet is great. Relative heights, again, is identical to what we talked through earlier, 100, 0, 0. Okay, that is going to conclude this video, and the next video will be setting up a field and setting a master benchmark and getting a grade.